The bride walks up to me and strikes me across the face, right there, in front of everyone. The microphone squeals with feedback. Guests freeze mid conversation, and suddenly, every phone in the room is lifted and pointed at us. I taste blood in my mouth, but I keep standing there, completely shocked, my hand instinctively moving to my burning cheek. My daughter's face is twisted with this look of pure entitlement, like she has every right in the world to hit me. My new son-in-law looks terrified, but he doesn't move to stop her. He just stands there like a coward. The crowd isn't confused about what just happened. They're stunned, dead silent. But there's this woman sitting at table 5. I later found out she's a family court judge, and she's watching this entire meltdown with laser focus. She's not looking away like everyone else. She's studying the situation, and I can see the wheels turning in her head. Before I explain how my daughter planned this entire ambush against me, tell me where you're watching from in the comments. I read every single one, and I need to know there are people out there who understand what happened to me. Because what you just witnessed wasn't a spontaneous outburst. This was calculated. This was planned. This was my own daughter's final move in a game I didn't even know we were playing. Let me take you back to just moments before that slap, because you need to understand how we got there. The wedding ceremony had just ended. Beautiful day. Everything seemed perfect. I was so proud, so happy for what I thought was my daughter's new beginning. Then she calls me aside for what she says is a private family talk before the reception starts. I thought she wanted to thank me, maybe share a tender moment. God, I was so naive. Instead, my daughter, my new son-in-law, and my other daughter, her sister, they corner me in this tiny storage room behind the reception hall. It's cramped, stuffy, and suddenly I feel trapped as they all stare at me with these serious expressions. That's when they tell me, just like that, no preamble, no explanation. They tell me I must announce during my mother of the bride speech that I'm giving my apartment to them, not lending, not helping with a down payment, giving my home, my only asset, my retirement security, everything I've worked my entire life to build. You will make this moment magical, my daughter says to me, and there's this coldness in her voice I've never heard before. Everyone's expecting it. We've already told people. I refuse, calmly, quietly, but firmly. I tell them that's not happening. I explain that this is my home, my security, my future. I've worked for 40 years to have this one thing that's mine. That's when the threats start. If you embarrass us in front of all these people, my son-in-law says, we won't forgive you. My own daughter nods along like this is perfectly reasonable, like threatening your mother at your wedding is just normal family business. I walk out of that room with my hands shaking, my heart pounding, and this terrible dread in my stomach. But I thought the worst was over. I thought they'd drop it, that maybe it was just wedding stress making them say crazy things. I had no idea they were just getting started. You have to understand something about my daughter and me. I raised her alone after my husband died when she was just 12 years old. 40-hour weeks turned into 60-hour weeks at the hospital where I worked as a nurse. Double shifts, overnight shifts, holiday shifts. Whatever it took to keep us afloat and give her everything she needed. Every birthday, every school event, every milestone. I was there, exhausted but present. I bought my apartment late in life. I was 58 years old when I finally saved enough for a down payment on a tiny one-bedroom place. It's nothing fancy. Old building, small rooms, needs work, but it's mine. After decades of renting, of moving whenever landlords raise the rent, of never having any security or stability, I finally had something that belonged to me, something no one could take away. Except my daughter had other plans. She started slowly. That's how manipulation works. It's not sudden, it creeps in gradually until you don't even notice how far you've fallen. First, it was just little comments. Mom, this place is too big for you. Mom, you don't really need all this space. Mom, we could take such good care of you. Then came the financial emergencies. Always something urgent. Always something that couldn't wait. Car repairs that turned out to cost 3 times the estimate. Student loan payments she forgot about until they were in default. Credit card debt from her investment in some business opportunity that never materialized. Medical bills from procedures that weren't quite covered by insurance. And I helped. Of course I helped. She's my daughter. When she called crying about not being able to make rent, I transferred money. When she needed a new car after hers was repossessed, I co-signed the loan. When she wanted to go back to school for her master's degree, I took out a second mortgage to help with tuition. Every time she promised it was the last time. Every time she swore she'd pay me back. Every time I believed her because what kind of mother doesn't believe her own child? But the requests kept coming, and they kept getting bigger. And whenever I hesitated, whenever I suggested maybe we should slow down, or make a plan, or talk about boundaries, the guilt trips would start. I can't believe you won't help me. I thought family was supposed to support each other. Dad would have helped me. That last one always hit the hardest. Bringing up my dead husband, her father, like he would have been disappointed in me for not giving her everything she wanted. Using his memory as a weapon against me. The apartment comments became more frequent. During the engagement, she started bringing her fiancé over for dinner, and he'd make these observations about the neighborhood, the building, the size of the place, how it would be perfect for a young couple starting out. How it was really too much space for one person. How they could help me find somewhere smaller, more manageable. I started to realize they weren't just making conversation. They were making plans. The wedding planning became a money vacuum unlike anything I'd ever seen. Dress fittings that required multiple appointments at expensive boutiques. Catering tastings at venues that cost more per plate than I spent on food in a month. Flower arrangements that cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. And somehow, despite the fact that they were both working, despite the fact that his family had money, I kept getting pulled in to cover costs. Just this one thing, Mom. We'll pay you back after the wedding. It's not that much, and it would mean so much to me. The breaking point came 6 weeks before the wedding. My daughter sits me down and tells me about their real wedding gift request. Not the china set from their registry. Not the down payment help they'd been hinting about. The apartment. My entire apartment. Your real gift to us is signing over the deed, she says, like she's asking me to pass the salt. We'll take care of you, obviously. You can stay as long as you want, but we need the equity for our future. I stare at her for a long moment, trying to process what she just said. Then I laugh, actually laugh, because it's so ridiculous, so completely insane, that laughter is the only response that makes sense. That's when her face changes. The sweet, loving daughter expression drops away, and I see something cold and calculating underneath, something that scares me. I'm not joking, Mom. We've talked to lawyers. We know what we're asking for, and we know you love me enough to do this. For the first time in her life, I tell my daughter no. Not maybe, not let me think about it, not we'll see. No, I will not be giving her my apartment. I will not be signing over my home. I will not be destroying my financial security for her wedding present. She doesn't take it well. The weeks leading up to the wedding become a nightmare of pressure and manipulation. Phone calls at all hours, unexpected visits where she brings her fiancé and her sister to talk sense into me, tears, threats, guilt trips, and emotional blackmail. They tell me I'm being selfish. They tell me I'm ruining their future. They tell me that if I really loved my daughter, I'd want to help her. They bring up every sacrifice I ever made for her, every dollar I ever spent, every time I put her needs before my own, and they twist it all into evidence that I owe her this. After everything you've done for me, she says during one of these interventions, this is how you show your love. This is your legacy. I start to feel crazy, like maybe I am being unreasonable. Maybe I am being selfish. Maybe good mothers do give their children everything, even their homes, even their security, even their futures. But then I remember what it felt like to sign that mortgage 20 years ago. I remember the pride, the relief, the sense of finally having something solid underneath me. I remember my husband, how he always talked about making sure I'd be okay if something happened to him. How he'd be heartbroken to know I was being pressured to give away the one thing that was supposed to keep me safe. So I keep saying no, and they keep pushing. The day before the wedding, my daughter shows up at my apartment with a folder full of documents: power of attorney forms, estate transfer papers, deed transfer documents, all filled out and ready for my signature. I thought we could get this done before all the wedding craziness, she says, spreading the papers out on my kitchen table like she's showing me vacation photos. The lawyer said if we file these tomorrow, everything will be processed by the time we get back from our honeymoon. I look at these papers and I realize this isn't about love or family or helping her start her new life. This is about money. This is about taking the one thing I have of value and claiming it as hers. This is about financial abuse, even though I don't have that term for it yet. I sweep the papers off my table and tell her to leave. She starts crying, then screaming, then threatening. She tells me I'm a terrible mother. She tells me I'm ruining her wedding. She tells me she wishes Dad was still alive because he would understand what family really means. Then she delivers the final blow. If you don't sign those papers, don't bother coming to my wedding. I don't sleep that night. I pace my apartment, looking at everything I've built, everything I've worked for, and I try to figure out how my relationship with my daughter became this toxic, this destructive. I think about not going to the wedding. I think about packing a bag and disappearing for the weekend, avoiding this whole confrontation. But she's still my daughter. It's still her wedding day. Maybe she'll come to her senses. Maybe the craziness will end once she's actually married and settled. Maybe I can find a way to set boundaries without losing her forever. So I go to the wedding. The ceremony is beautiful. She looks radiant in her dress. And for a moment, watching her walk down the aisle, I remember the little girl who used to practice wedding marches in our living room, using bed sheets as a veil. I remember the teenager who would show me pictures of wedding dresses in magazines and talk about her someday prince. I remember my daughter before she became this person I barely recognize. During the vows, I cry, not because I'm happy, but because I'm mourning. I'm mourning the relationship we used to have, the trust that's been broken, the love that's been weaponized against me. After the ceremony, there are photos and hugs and congratulations. People keep telling me how proud I must be, how beautiful everything is, how lucky I am to have such a wonderful daughter. I smile and nod and play the part of the happy mother of the bride, but inside I'm dying. Then comes the reception. I'm supposed to give a short speech during dinner, just a few words about love and marriage and wishing the couple well. I've prepared something simple and sweet, nothing controversial, nothing about apartments or money or any of the ugliness that's been building between us. But as I walk up to the microphone, I see my daughter's face. She's staring at me with this expectant look, and I realize she still thinks I'm going to do it. She still thinks I'm going to announce that I'm giving them my apartment. Despite everything, despite all my refusals, despite the horrible things she said to me just last night, she still believes she can manipulate me into giving her what she wants. I reach the microphone and look out at all these faces: friends, family, people who've known me for years, people who've seen me struggle and work and sacrifice to build a life for my daughter and myself. And I think about what my husband would want me to do, not what would make people happy, not what would avoid conflict, but what would honor the life we built together and the values we tried to teach our daughter. I start my speech the way I planned. I talk about love and commitment and building a life together. I talk about the importance of supporting each other through good times and bad. I talk about respect and partnership and putting your family first. But I don't announce that I'm giving them my apartment. I don't sign my life away on their wedding day. I simply finish my speech with wishes for their happiness and return to my seat. That's when my daughter realizes I'm not going to cave. That's when she understands I meant every no I've given her over the past 6 weeks. That's when she decides to take what she wants by force. She stands up, grabs the microphone from the DJ, and announces to the entire room that her mother has a special surprise gift to share. She calls me back up to the microphone with this fake smile plastered on her face, and I can see the rage burning in her eyes. Mom has something wonderful to tell everyone about our new home, she says into the microphone, and the room goes quiet with anticipation. I look at her, then at the crowd, then back at her, and I simply say, "Actually, I don't have any announcement to make." The silence stretches out for what feels like forever. My daughter's smile becomes more and more strained. Her new husband looks like he wants to disappear. People start shifting in their seats, sensing the tension but not understanding what's happening. That's when my daughter explodes, right there in front of everyone, with the microphone still in her hand. She screams at me, "You selfish bitch, you're ruining my wedding. All I wanted was for you to do the right thing." Before I can respond, before I can even process what's happening, she drops the microphone and slaps me across the face, hard, so hard that my ears ring and my vision blurs for a moment. The room erupts. People gasp. Chairs scrape against the floor as guests stand up. Phones come out of purses and pockets as people start recording. The DJ cuts the music. The wedding photographer stops taking pictures and starts staring with his mouth open. I stand there with my hand on my cheek, tasting blood from where my teeth cut the inside of my mouth, and I look at my daughter. This person I raised, this person I sacrificed everything for, this person I thought I knew. She's not done. Even with everyone watching, even with phones recording, even with her new husband trying to pull her away, she keeps going. 20 years I've been waiting for you to do something meaningful for me. 20 years. And this was your chance. This was your chance to actually show you love me instead of just saying it. I try to speak, but she cuts me off. You live in that apartment all alone, like some bitter old woman. We could have made it a home. We could have filled it with love and laughter and children. But no, you'd rather hoard it like some dragon sitting on treasure. The cruelty in her voice, the complete lack of remorse for what she just did, the way she's making herself the victim even after hitting me, it breaks something inside me that I don't think will ever heal. That's when the woman from table 5 steps forward. She's tall, distinguished, probably in her 60s, and she has this air of authority that makes the room go quiet just by her presence. "I think that's enough," she says firmly, and my daughter actually takes a step back. The woman looks at me with kind eyes and asks if I'm okay. She asks if I need medical attention. She asks if I have someone to drive me home. And then she does something that changes everything. She hands me her business card and says, loud enough for people nearby to hear, "What just happened to you is elder financial abuse. You need to know that what your daughter is trying to do to you is illegal, and you have rights. Judge Catherine Graves, Family Court." That's what the card says. My daughter's face goes white. Her new husband starts pulling her toward the exit. The wedding guests start talking among themselves in hushed, shocked voices. The spell is broken. The truth is out. I leave that reception hall with my head held high, my cheeks still burning from the slap, and Judge Graves' business card clutched in my hand. The next morning, I call her. "I was hoping you would," she says when I identify myself. "Can you come to my office this afternoon? We need to talk about protecting yourself." Judge Graves explains things to me that I never knew. She tells me about financial elder abuse, about how adult children sometimes develop a sense of entitlement to their parents' assets. She tells me about manipulation tactics, about isolation, about the gradual erosion of boundaries that I've been experiencing for years. She tells me about other cases she's seen, children who convinced their parents to sign over property, who moved into family homes and then changed the locks, who used guilt and obligation and family loyalty to steal inheritances and life savings. "Your daughter has been grooming you financially," she explains. "All those small requests, all those emergencies, all that guilt about family obligations. That was conditioning you to see your resources as hers. The apartment demand wasn't sudden. It was the logical conclusion of years of manipulation." Hearing this from a judge, someone who sees these situations professionally, gives me permission to feel angry, really angry, not just hurt or disappointed or confused, but furious at what's been done to me. I drive home from that meeting feeling more clear-headed than I have in months. But as I pull into my parking space, I see my daughter's car already there. She's waiting for me. She's crying when I walk up to my building. Real tears, dramatic sobs, the full performance. She throws herself at me and says she's sorry, that the wedding stress made her crazy, that she loves me and never meant to hurt me. "I brought something to make it right," she says, and shows me a bouquet of expensive flowers and a box of chocolates. And I want to talk, really talk, about everything. Against my better judgment, I let her into my apartment. Once we're inside, the tears stop like someone turned off a faucet. She sits down at my kitchen table and pulls out a folder. A different folder, but filled with the same kinds of papers she showed me before the wedding. "I know yesterday got a little intense," she says, like slapping me in front of 100 people was just getting a little intense. "But I've been thinking about it, and I understand why you're scared. These papers will make everything official and legal. You won't have to worry about anything." I look at what she's brought me: power of attorney documents, healthcare directives, estate transfer forms, all designed to give her control over my finances, my medical decisions, my property, my entire life. "I don't understand why you're fighting this," she continues, when I don't reach for the papers. "This is what families do for each other. This is how we take care of each other." I ask her about taking care of me. What exactly does that mean? Where would I live? How would my daily life change? What happens if I disagree with their decisions? She gets vague and defensive. We'll figure it out. You trust me, don't you? You know I want what's best for you. But I don't trust her anymore. Yesterday proved that beyond any doubt. When I refuse to sign the papers, she switches tactics. Now I'm confused, manipulated by outsiders, meaning Judge Graves. Now I'm not thinking clearly. Now I'm being paranoid and difficult. Mom, I'm worried about you, she says with fake concern. This isn't like you. You're usually so reasonable. Maybe you should talk to someone. Maybe you need help. The threat is clear. Sign these papers, or she'll try to have me declared incompetent. She leaves the papers on my table and tells me she'll be back tomorrow for them, signed. Think about what Dad would want, she says on her way out. Think about family. That night, I can't sleep. I keep thinking about that threat, about her suggestion that I need help, about what might happen if she tries to have me declared mentally unfit. I think about losing everything, not just my apartment, but my autonomy, my right to make decisions about my own life. The next morning, I get a call that makes my worst fears real. A social worker from Adult Protective Services wants to schedule a home visit. Someone has filed a report claiming I'm being neglected, that I'm living in unsafe conditions, that I may not be capable of caring for myself. I know exactly who filed that report. The social worker, a young woman named Maria, comes to my apartment 2 days later. She's kind but thorough, asking about my daily routines, my medical care, my support system, my finances. She inspects my kitchen, my bathroom, my bedroom. She asks if I feel safe, if anyone has threatened me, if anyone is pressuring me to do things I don't want to do. I tell her everything about the apartment demands, about the wedding slap, about the papers my daughter wants me to sign. I show her the business card Judge Graves gave me. I explain that the only person threatening my safety and well-being is my own daughter. Maria takes careful notes. She asks for permission to speak with my doctor, with my neighbors, with Judge Graves. She explains that her job is to determine if I'm being abused or neglected, not to judge family disputes over money. From what I can see, she tells me before she leaves, you're living independently, managing your own affairs, and making rational decisions about your life. If someone is pressuring you to sign legal documents you don't want to sign, that's not neglect. That's potential financial abuse. The report comes back clean. I'm declared fully capable of caring for myself, living independently, and making my own financial decisions. The case is closed, but my daughter doesn't give up. She's just getting started. 2 weeks later, I get legal papers in the mail. My daughter is filing for emergency guardianship, claiming I'm mentally incompetent and need someone to manage my affairs. She's asking the court to give her control over my finances and medical decisions. The petition is full of lies. It claims I'm showing signs of dementia. It claims I'm being manipulated by predatory individuals who are isolating me from my family. It claims I've become paranoid and delusional. It claims I'm making irrational financial decisions that put my welfare at risk. It also includes statements from my other daughter, my youngest, who I thought was staying out of this whole mess. She's supporting her sister's petition, claiming she's concerned about Mom's recent behavior and thinks professional oversight would be in her best interest. 2 against 1. My own daughters, working together to strip me of my rights. I call Judge Graves immediately. This is retaliation, she tells me after I read her the petition. This is what abusers do when their victims start setting boundaries. They escalate. She refers me to an attorney who specializes in elder law, a sharp woman named Rebecca Chin, who takes one look at my case and gets angry on my behalf. This is a textbook financial abuse case, Rebecca tells me. Your daughter is using the court system to try to force you to do what manipulation couldn't accomplish. We're going to fight this hard. The waiting period before the hearing is the worst time of my life. Every day I wake up knowing that my own children are trying to take away my rights, trying to gain control over everything I've worked for, trying to reduce me to a dependent ward who can't make decisions about her own life. I get my medical records organized. I get character references from friends and neighbors. I prepare financial statements showing that I'm managing my money responsibly. I document every interaction I've had with my daughters over the past year, every demand, every threat, every manipulation tactic. The hardest part is accepting that this is really happening, that my daughters really are willing to destroy me to get what they want, that all those years of love and sacrifice and putting them first count for nothing when there's money and property at stake. Friends try to tell me that family is family, that we should work this out privately, that surely my daughters don't mean to hurt me, but they don't understand. They don't know what it's like to have your own children treat you like an obstacle to their inheritance while you're still alive to see it. The court hearing is scheduled for a Thursday morning in November. I wake up that day feeling like I'm going to my own trial, which, in a way, I am. My competency, my rights, my entire future are going to be decided by a stranger based on lies my daughters have told about me. Rebecca meets me at the courthouse and explains what's going to happen. My daughters will present their case first, trying to prove I'm incompetent. Then we'll present our case, proving I'm fully capable. The judge will decide based on the evidence. Remember, Rebecca tells me, they have the burden of proof. They have to prove you're incompetent. We don't have to prove you're competent. That's assumed unless they can prove otherwise. But sitting in that courtroom, waiting for the hearing to begin, I don't feel confident. I feel scared and alone and betrayed by the people who were supposed to love me most. My daughter takes the witness stand first. She's dressed conservatively, speaking in a soft voice, playing the concerned daughter perfectly. She talks about how worried she's been about me lately, how I've become isolated and paranoid. She mentions the incident at her wedding, describing it as me becoming confused and aggressive. She doesn't mention that she slapped me. She doesn't mention the apartment demands. She doesn't mention years of financial manipulation. She just talks about a poor old mother who's losing her grip on reality and needs help from her loving family. Her lawyer presents medical records showing I've had some normal age-related health issues: high blood pressure, arthritis, a bout with pneumonia 2 years ago. They twist these into evidence that I'm declining physically and mentally. They present financial records showing the money I've given my daughters over the years, describing it as erratic spending and poor financial judgment. They don't mention that every dollar was given in response to their requests, their emergencies, their guilt trips. My younger daughter testifies next, backing up everything her sister said. She talks about phone calls where I seemed confused and suspicious of everyone. She describes visits where I seemed paranoid and not like myself. I sit there listening to these lies, these distortions, these manipulations of every conversation we've had, and I feel sick. These are my children. I raised them, loved them, sacrificed for them, and they're sitting in a courtroom, lying about me to steal my life away. Then my son-in-law testifies. He talks about the apartment, but not truthfully. According to him, they never demanded I sign it over. According to him, I offered it to them as a wedding gift and then changed my mind for no reason. According to him, the whole conflict started because I became irrational and possessive about my property. He describes the wedding incident as me becoming agitated and attacking my daughter when she tried to calm me down. In his version, My daughter was the victim trying to handle her mentally unstable mother who was ruining her wedding. I watched the judge's face during all this testimony, and I can't read her expression. Is she believing these lies? Does she think I'm really incompetent? Does she see through the manipulation, or is she buying their performance? Then it's our turn. Rebecca calls me to the witness stand first. I tell my story, the real story. I talk about years of escalating financial demands, about emotional manipulation, about threats and pressure, and the slap that shocked a room full of wedding guests. I explain my financial situation clearly and rationally. I show that I've been managing my money responsibly, paying my bills on time, making reasonable decisions about my care and my future. I demonstrate that I understand the consequences of the legal documents my daughters want me to sign, and that my refusal to sign them is based on clear reasoning, not confusion. Rebecca calls my doctor next. He testifies that my recent physical exam shows I'm in good health for my age, with no signs of cognitive decline or mental impairment. He says I'm fully capable of making my own medical and financial decisions. She calls my neighbor Mrs. Patterson, who's known me for 15 years. She testifies that I'm the same person I've always been: independent, sharp, responsible. She talks about how I help other neighbors with rides to appointments, how I manage the building's recycling program, how I've been a reliable friend and community member. She calls the social worker Maria, who testifies about her investigation and her conclusion that I'm living independently and managing my affairs competently. Then Rebecca calls her surprise witness, Judge Catherine Graves. Judge Graves takes the stand and identifies herself, then describes what she witnessed at my daughter's wedding. She doesn't just talk about the slap, she talks about what led up to it, the pressure and manipulation she could see happening, the way my daughter tried to publicly coerce me into making an announcement I clearly didn't want to make. In my professional experience, Judge Graves testifies, what I witnessed was not an elderly woman having a mental health crisis. What I witnessed was financial elder abuse playing out in real time. The adult child was attempting to use public pressure and family dynamics to force her mother into giving up valuable property. She explains financial elder abuse to the court, describing the pattern of escalating demands, emotional manipulation, and threats that characterize these cases. She talks about how abusers often use the court system as a final tool of coercion when other methods fail. Filing for guardianship when a parent refuses to hand over assets is a common tactic, she explains. It's a way of using the legal system to accomplish what emotional manipulation couldn't. The key moment comes when Rebecca plays the video. Someone at the wedding recorded the slap and the confrontation that led up to it. The video shows everything. My daughter demanding I make an announcement about the apartment, me calmly refusing, her explosion of anger, and the moment she hit me. The courtroom goes completely silent as they watch my daughter strike me across the face. There's no ambiguity, no room for interpretation. Everyone can see exactly what happened and who the aggressor was. After the video, Rebecca calls her final witness, a geriatric psychiatrist who's reviewed my case. He testifies that I show no signs of cognitive impairment, dementia, or mental illness. He explains that refusing to give away valuable property to adult children is not a sign of incompetence, it's actually a sign of good judgment. The petitioners seem to believe that their mother should give them her apartment, he says. They interpret her refusal as evidence of mental decline. But wanting to maintain control over your own assets, wanting to preserve your own financial security, wanting to make your own decisions about your property, these are all signs of competent decision-making. When the testimony ends, Both sides make their closing arguments. My daughter's lawyer argues that I've become isolated and paranoid, that my irrational refusal to help my family shows I can't make good decisions anymore. Rebecca argues that my daughters are trying to use the court to steal what they couldn't take through manipulation, that filing for guardianship is their final attempt to control me and my assets. Then we wait. The judge reviews the evidence, asks a few clarifying questions, and then delivers her verdict. This court finds that the respondent is fully competent to manage her own affairs, she says. The evidence clearly shows that she is living independently, managing her finances responsibly, and making rational decisions about her life and property. She looks directly at my daughters when she continues. The court is deeply troubled by what appears to be an attempt to use the guardianship process to force a competent adult to transfer valuable property to family members. This is not what the guardianship system is designed for. The judge denies the petition completely. She warns my daughters and their attorney that any future frivolous filings will be met with sanctions. She orders them to pay my legal fees. But then she goes further. This court is referring this case to the district attorney's office for review of possible criminal charges related to elder financial abuse, she announces. The evidence presented today suggests a pattern of financial exploitation that may warrant prosecution. My daughters' faces go white. Their lawyer looks like he wants to disappear. The courtroom is silent. I walk out of that courthouse a free woman. My rights are intact. My home is secure. My daughter's attempt to steal my life has failed completely. But the victory feels hollow, because to win, I had to lose my children. To keep my independence, I had to accept that my daughters never really loved me. They just loved what I could give them. That night, I sit in my apartment, which is staying my apartment, and I think about what comes next. Judge Graves calls to congratulate me, and we talk about the future. You need to protect yourself going forward, she tells me. This won't be the end of it. People like your daughters don't give up easily. She's right. Over the next few months, my daughters try different approaches. They send relatives to guilt trip me about tearing the family apart. They have friends call me to suggest I'm being too harsh and should forgive and forget. They try showing up at my apartment with grandchildren I barely know, using them as emotional weapons. But I don't cave. For the first time in decades, I hold firm boundaries. I change my will, removing my daughters as beneficiaries and leaving my estate to charities that help abused elders. I set up a living trust to protect my assets. I give copies of the court documents to my bank, my doctor, my apartment building management, anyone who might be contacted by people claiming authority over my affairs. Most importantly, I find peace. I join a support group for survivors of family financial abuse. I discover I'm not alone. There are many parents dealing with entitled adult children who believe they're owed their inheritance while their parents are still alive. I start volunteering with Judge Graves Foundation, helping other elderly people recognize and escape financial abuse. I share my story, and I help others find the courage to say no to family members who are treating them like ATMs. My apartment becomes truly mine for the first time, not a potential gift for my daughters, not something I'm holding in trust for their future, but my home. I redecorate. I host dinner parties for my real friends. I travel with the money I used to give away to fake emergencies. I'm 72 years old, and I'm finally living for myself instead of existing to be depleted by others. The criminal investigation that the judge ordered doesn't result in charges. The prosecutor says financial elder abuse cases are hard to prove when the victim gave money voluntarily, even under pressure. But the investigation itself serves as a warning to my daughters that they're being watched. They've made a few half-hearted attempts at reconciliation over the past year. Cards on my birthday with generic messages about family and love, a Christmas gift left at my door with no note, an email from my younger daughter saying she hopes we can move past this, but there's no real apology, no acknowledgement of what they did, no recognition that they tried to destroy my life for their financial benefit. They want me to pretend none of it happened and go back to the way things were, with them taking and me giving until there's nothing left. I won't do it. I can't do it. Some relationships can't be repaired because the damage is too deep, too intentional, too rooted in fundamental disrespect. I miss my daughters sometimes, or rather, I miss who I thought they were. I miss the illusion that they loved me for myself rather than for what I could provide. I miss believing that family meant something more than financial opportunity. But I don't miss the constant stress, the guilt trips, the feeling that nothing I gave was ever enough. I don't miss walking on eggshells around my own children, afraid that setting any boundary would trigger another crisis. I don't miss being treated like a bank account with emotions. If you're watching this and you recognize your own situation, if you have adult children who treat your assets like their inheritance, who use emotional manipulation to extract money and property, who make you feel guilty for wanting to maintain control over your own life, please know that you're not alone. You don't owe your children your financial security. You don't owe them your home, your savings, your peace of mind. You don't owe them your life. Family love shouldn't come with a price tag. Real love doesn't demand that you destroy yourself to prove it. Adult children who truly love their parents want them to be safe, secure, and independent, not impoverished and dependent. If someone you love is pressuring you to sign over property, to change your will, to give them access to your accounts for your own good, that's not love. That's financial abuse. And you have the right to say no. You have the right to keep your home. You have the right to manage your own money. You have the right to make your own decisions about your life and your future. These rights don't disappear when you get older, and they don't disappear because someone claims to be acting out of family loyalty. The hardest part of setting boundaries with family is accepting that you might lose the relationship. But here's what I learned. If standing up for yourself destroys the relationship, then the relationship was already destroyed. It was just destroying you slowly instead of all at once. My daughters showed me who they really were when they thought they could take what they wanted from me. They showed me that their love was conditional on my compliance, that their respect was dependent on my willingness to be exploited. I chose to believe them. Some people will tell you that family is everything, that you should forgive anything, that blood is thicker than water. But the full quote is, "The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb." The relationships we choose, the people who earn our trust and respect, matter more than the accidents of biology. I built a new family from friends, neighbors, fellow survivors, and people who actually care about my well-being rather than my bank account. It's smaller than my biological family, but it's real. It's based on mutual respect, genuine affection, and shared values rather than obligation and guilt. To anyone dealing with financial elder abuse, to anyone being pressured by family members to give up assets or control, to anyone being made to feel guilty for wanting to maintain their independence, you have options, you have rights, you have people who will support you. Call Adult Protective Services if you're being threatened. Contact an elder law attorney if someone is trying to force you to sign documents. Reach out to Family Court Services if relatives are using the legal system to try to control you. Document everything. Keep records of financial demands. threatening conversations, manipulation attempts. Tell trusted friends and professionals what's happening. Don't suffer in silence because you're embarrassed or because you think family problems should stay private. The shame belongs to the people who are abusing you, not to you for being abused. I'm telling my story because silence protects abusers. I'm sharing the details because other people need to know they're not crazy, they're not selfish, they're not wrong to want to maintain control over their own lives. Your children are not entitled to your assets while you're still alive. Your family is not entitled to impoverish you for their benefit. No one is entitled to pressure you into giving up your security, your home, your independence. If someone tries to tell you otherwise, if someone tries to guilt you into believing that real family members sacrifice everything for each other, remember my wedding day. Remember that slap. Remember what entitlement looks like when it doesn't get what it wants. And remember that you deserve better. You deserve to live your own life, to make your own choices, to say no without being punished for it. You deserve to keep what you've worked for. You deserve to age with dignity. You deserve to be treated with respect by the people who claim to love you. Don't let anyone, not even your own children, take that away from you. Tell me your story in the comments. Share what you're going through. Let other people know they're not alone in this. Together, we can break the silence that allows financial elder abuse to continue. And please subscribe to this channel. Your support helps stories like mine reach people who need to hear them. Every person who learns to recognize financial abuse, every person who finds the courage to set boundaries, every person who refuses to be exploited makes our community safer for all of us. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. And thank you for standing with survivors instead of looking the away when family love becomes family abuse. You're stronger than you know. You're worth more than what you can give. And you have the right to live your own life on your own terms for as long as you're able. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise.